There are many activities available along the Oregon coast, but few are as rewarding or as messy as clamming. In Newport, Oregon, a shellfish biologist is interested in teaching a new way to clam that is less impactful on the habitat of the Yaquina Bay estuary.
My name is Mitch Vance, and I'm a shellfish biologist with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. I work with a team of shellfish managers up and down the coast to manage the shellfish resources of Oregon, and that's many, many different species of crabs, clams, and other marine invertebrates. Well, we want to maintain the ecosystem health of the estuary so that all the animals that rely on that for a place to live can continue to be there.
One of the ways they monitor the recreational clam harvest is by asking clammers a variety of questions, such as the methods used, how many clams were collected, and which species they found.
Recreational clam harvest occurs in many of the estuaries up and down the Oregon coast.
An estuary is a body of water where the river and ocean collide, creating a nutrient-rich environment capable of supporting diverse life, such as eelgrass, algae, shrimp, birds, fish, and bay clams.
So yeah, there's many different tide flats here in Yaquina Bay that are quite popular. One of the most popular ones is what we call the bridge bed. It is right over here under the Highway 101 bridge on the south side of the Yaquina River. Idaho Flat right behind us, which is between us and Idaho Point, is another very popular tide flat.
There are 4 main types of bay clams targeted by clammers in Oregon. One of the most sought after is the gaper clam.
The gaper clam is the largest burrowing clam that we have in Oregon.
It's also a deep digger and can be difficult to get to.
The traditional method is to go out into the estuary and find their show and dig them up with a shovel. And it's advisable with a shovel to dig a nice hole beside that clam so that you don't crush that shell. And then when you get down to the right depth, which could be anywhere between 8 and 16 inches, then you sort of work sideways until you feel that shell and just pull it out sideways. It's really good practice to refill that hole, because when you dig a gaper clam up, it often takes a sizable hole and you have to move a lot of sediment, and you'll put that sediment to the side, and there might be many other animals that live right there. If you don't move that sediment back into the hole that you made, that could smother some of those other animals and they would die for no good reason. The eelgrass beds are a very important habitat in the estuary system.
They produce oxygen, cycle nutrients, and provide food and shelter for many organisms in the estuary ecosystem. It's also fragile, and too much disturbance of the sediment can harm eelgrass beds, which would affect the life that depends upon it. A less impactful alternative to the shovel method is the shrimp pump.
The method that I use for harvesting gaper clams is I will go out into the intertidal. I try to revisit areas where I know there's clams, and I wait till that is covered with just a very few inches of water. I will look around for a gaper clam show, and the show is the hole that they leave where their siphon comes up out of the sediment to take in the water. And when I see a hole that I think might be a gaper clam, I'll stick my finger in there, and very often the gaper clam siphon will be right up there near the sediment surface, and I will feel it retract. And then I will take my shrimp pump and position it right over that show. I'll suck up some water and then firmly but gently blast that water back down in that hole, and that liquefies all that sediment, but just in a very small area. So I'll just keep pumping and go down, and then when I feel the shell of the clam with my shrimp pump, then I'll reach in, kind of jiggle it out, and pull that clam out. I have switched to almost always using the shrimp pump now.
The shrimp pump is easier to use. Since it shifts less sediment and creates a smaller hole, it reduces the impact to the immediate area. These inexpensive and versatile pumps are available at many hardware stores along the coast.
I just think it would minimize or reduce the impacts to our estuarine ecosystem. I would just encourage everyone to look into some of these shell fishing opportunities, both clamming and crabbing. It is a really fun activity that families can join together in, and with minimal equipment and with a little bit of practice, they can get a lot of clams and make really nice meals. Well, what we want to do is allow for harvest now so people can enjoy the resources of Oregon, but also we want to minimize those impacts so that we can make sure that that harvest is sustainable and that we will always have some for the future.
Clamming is a great activity to enjoy along the Oregon coast, and it's our job to make sure we preserve this prime clam habitat for the next generation of clammers.